At the time, I found Ahmići, and it was on the 22nd of April that I found it, and it is to my shame that it happened in my area of responsibility.
Which village? Which
Koje je
village?
to selo?
Ahmić.
Yes.
Okay. So you say there are many babies killed in the village of Ahmić?
No praštam.
I remember responding that I did not believe that, it couldn't happen, and that I would go and investigate. And so I did. So I recrossed the lines and drove to the village of Ahmići. And I discovered that I was wrong. About a third of the way through the village, I think, some soldiers shouted for me. I went there and we discovered the first house where we could identify dead bodies. A man and a child, probably a teenage boy, were in the front entrance, and at the back, even worse, it looked like the remains of several people, clearly one adult, possibly two women, and several children. It looks like the father and the son try to defend the mother and the daughters, the mother and the daughters being in the cellars. The father and the son possibly shot and then burnt upstairs, and then some swine, someone has deliberately set fire to the cellar, and all the mother and possibly the daughters and the young children have all died, 5 or 6 in the cellar. It is quite horrifying.
We noticed that there were numerous animals which had been killed, a lot of livestock which was rotting in buildings in the middle of the road. We obviously smelled the stench of rotting bodies. There were still apparently numerous bodies which had not been recovered from the buildings, and there was, as people would say, a smell of death in the village.
We've got a family here. I hope very much they were dead before the house was on fire. It looks like I hope very much they were. They set fire to the house. The house burned through, the roofs and the ceilings falling on top of the bodies, and you've got the remnants of the bodies here.
Some of the bodies are very small, aren't they?
Yes, these are children. Some of them are children.
Those children were still alive when they have been burned. How can you imagine this? I didn't thought that there were still criminals like this. When you see that, you are no more a diplomat. You are just a human being, saying it's not acceptable. Who is responsible? We have to find it. It's absolutely disgusting. People who have done this must be punished. And if nobody does it, so who can we believe?
I just had the HVO telling me no cameras. I told them to get stuffed.
Do you have the permission of HVO?
I don't need the permission of the bloody HVO.
Meni ne treba dozvola.
I am from the United Nations.
Ja sam iz Ujedinjenih nacija.
And as far as I'm concerned, what has happened here is disgraceful.
I ono koliko se mene tiče,
Bad luck,
što
my
se ovdje
friend.
desilo je užasno.
You know, there are whole families up here that have been massacred. I'd like to know who's done it.
Porodice su gore koje su masakrirane i volio bi da znam ko je to uradio.
Who has done it? Who is responsible?
Ko je odgovoran za ovo?
It's not you, obviously, is it?
know.
I have asked him why no one has been arrested. To my knowledge, no one has been arrested. And I've asked them why nothing seems to be happening, because people are demanding answers. More to the point, we've discovered 3 more bodies this morning, an adult and 2 children, possibly 3. We're not sure, because the remains were so badly destroyed.
It looked to me to have all the makings of what we would call a cordon and search, or a cordon and destroy operation, if you will. In other words, if you don't want the enemy to be able to withdraw, you would place cut-offs sighted over likely lines of withdrawal from the village, or the objective, so that you could shoot any of the enemy who were leaving the objective if you didn't want them to escape.
I believe that approximately 40 to 70 people may have taken part in this. I believe that the weapons used were mortars and small arms and petrol and Zippo lighters. I believe that each house was visited systematically. I believe that it was visited by small squads of men who determined who was in their house, and by their ethnic origin determined whether they lived or they died.
2 things struck one as almost surreal. And that was the total destruction and devastation of one part of the village. And in the southern part of the village, as if a line was drawn in the sand, there were a whole series of houses that didn't have a scratch on them. And there were people in those houses who came out and sort of shouted things at us and then went in, but wouldn't come and talk to us. We tried knocking on the doors to ask them what had happened, and they wouldn't talk to us.
We decided the following day to try and locate some of the survivors. We managed to locate about 100 of the survivors from Ahmići, who were now at a refugee collection center in Zenica. We spoke with these people for several hours to get an eyewitness account of what had happened, and then to try to juxtapose that account with the physical evidence which we had seen in Ahmići. Practically all of the people indicated to us that at about 5:30 a.m. in the morning, around the time when the morning prayers were being said from the minaret in the village, that they had heard explosions, and that many of them had escaped from their homes. They said that after the bombardment, the soldiers went door to door. In certain cases, they would throw grenades into homes or set the homes on fire. And when the occupants would come out of the homes, they would simply execute them right there.
There was a particular house in the village of Upper Ahmići that a family had been found of 5 or 6 bodies, a young child, and some other bodies that are unrecognisable. And it was my platoon's task to move up there with Colonel Stewart, who is personally in charge of the clearance operation, and my platoon moved out the remains from that house.
Do you know approximately how many civilian bodies were recovered from these areas?
I know that there are 96 bodies recovered.